All right, we'll call to order Safety and Public Works Committee meeting, June 5th, 2023, 6:30 PM in council chambers. We have 14 items tonight. First 5 are all event, street or parking lot closure applications or requests. First of which would be the consideration of street closure request for North 8th Street from Fur to Bluff. Jesse, if you want to take this one away.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I'll try and go through these pretty quickly here. So the first one is the request for closing North 8th Street from Fur to Bluff on June 17th for a grad party being hosted at Triangle Park. The intentions of the closure is to allow for crossing children from the house to the park without traffic. So staff is just requesting council approval of the closure during the event.
Okay. I looked at it on the map. They're not blocking Bluff, just that block and directly in front of their house to get over to the park.
Correct.
Correct? For about 4.5 hours.
That's how I understand.
I have no problem with it.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 2 is a event parking lot closure application for the Narbecue. Again, Public Works Director Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The attached event applications requesting closure of the City Hall parking lot for the Skate Park Association's Barbecue event on July 1st from noon till 5 p.m. They're requesting to utilize power in the parking lot for PA system and live music. They're also proposing to provide one restroom. They are also requesting that city staff provide additional trash receptacles and picnic benches for the event. As the organizer is preparing barbecue, they have indicated that they have applied for a temporary food vendor license through the Department of Health. Staff recommends approval of the request under the conditions that they request the traffic control and other requested materials 1 week prior, submit insurance prior to the event, and remove all signs and banners following the event.
Excellent.
Got a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
For the additional things that staff helps with, do we ever charge for that, those types of,
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of other events that the city does that for.
This is on a Saturday, correct?
I believe so.
So we would
Yeah.
just leave some receptacles out on Friday afternoon before leaving City Hall. So
That's
it's really
correct.
not going to cost any labor or anything like that, I don't think, right?
I didn't know.
It'll be the labor of moving them to the City Hall lot, but other than that, no.
Sure.
15 minutes.
The 15 minutes, charge them. No, kidding. I have no problem with it. I think it's pretty much the same as they've done the last year or 2 years.
Yep.
Okay. We have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 3 is a event parking lot closure application for the Lakes Area Music Festival block party. Again, Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The attached event applications requesting closure of the Laurel Street parking lot for the Lakes Area Music Festival block party to be held on Wednesday, August 9th. The event's free to the public with live music. The music's typically completed by 8:30. Sage on Laurel is going to provide the electric for the event, and restrooms and trash cans will be provided. So staff is recommending approval of the request under the conditions that the traffic control be requested 1 week prior, and that they provide a trained crowd manager for the event if they have more than 1,000 attendees per the state fire code.
All right. I do believe that we will not see 1,000 people there. Great event, though. I've been through there during this. They've been doing it for a number of years. I don't think we've ever had an issue, so.
I would move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. On to number 4, we have another event street closure application for Independence Day. I think this is Mr. Dean, but I believe the Executive Director of Brainerd Community Action also will speak. But Mr. Dean, if you want to start, go ahead.
Absolutely. So the attached event application is requesting closure of the 4th of July event routes on July 4th from 6 p.m. until 11 p.m. The parade route starts at the high school parking lot on South 5th, continues north to Laurel Street, then west to East River Road. The The parade concludes in the high school parking lot adjacent to College Drive. So similar route in years past. The applicant's going to have signs and banners adjacent to East River Road, bands at the new amphitheater facility, food vendors, and more during the event. They will also be providing additional restrooms. So staff is just recommending approval of the request under the conditions the traffic control be requested 1 week prior, insurance prior to the event is submitted, and removing signs and banners after the event, and then finally coordinating with the police department for the needs during the event.
Excellent.
Sure.
Name and address, please, sir.
Name and address, Dave Bideau, Brainerd Community Action, Executive Director, 321 South 7th Street, Suite 105. Just super fast. This is the event that is put on every year here in Brainerd for the 4th of July. Pretty much solidifying ourselves into the new format now that the new park has been opened. As Jesse had said, we will be utilizing that for our stage in terms of having our band. That's right, the music is back this year. So we have Hans Blix and the Weapons Inspectors that will be playing from 8 o'clock until the fireworks. And everything should go fairly smoothly. We, a couple years ago, moved the parade back to 6 p.m. in an effort to try and have it be a more concise event that starts at 6, ends with the fireworks. And again, the only real challenge in terms of that is the road closure happens around 5 p.m. And then the influx of traffic that happens with that. However, we have a pretty good plan in place from years past, and we'll be meeting again with the police department yet this week, hopefully, to solidify what the rest of that will look like.
Excellent. Does have any questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item number 5, another event street closure application. This one's for Street Fest. Go ahead, Mr. Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The attached event applications requesting closure of Front Street between 6th and 8th Streets and the Front Street parking lot. The street would be Friday and Saturday, July 28th and 29th. The parking lot just on Saturday for the JC Street Fest event. And the event is similar to years past, that it'll have a rib fest, games, vendors, music, and others. Power is supplied by the JCs, and they'll also provide additional restrooms and trash cans for the event. They are also planning to utilize the Mills parking lot, and that sidewalks would be open during the event. Staff is recommending approval of the request under the conditions that they request traffic control materials 1 week prior, remove the signs and banners after the event, hire 2 officers for security each night from 8 p.m. until midnight, provide insurance prior to the event, and provide trained crowd managers if they do have more than 1,000 attendees per state fire code.
All right. Any questions, comments?
Have they ever put on parades?
Put on parades during the Street Fest event?
No, I mean, has the Street Fest event organizers ever put on parades?
I'm not
Sounds
sure.
like we got some competition going there with what they do, you know.
Who can bring more? Who can bring more? Who can hit 1,000
I'm not
first?
saying one word, it just sounds like competition, so, yeah.
Love it.
I'd move to approve this.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, now we're on to number 6. No more street closure applications that I can see here, but we have a change order to improvement 2112 North Brainerd reconstruction. Mr. Dean, go ahead and take this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff is requesting approval of change order 2 that includes additional fill material to rebuild portions of phase 1 to the proper grade prior to the gravel base and paving. The original roadway had concrete underneath the asphalt pavement. Based on records and drawings, staff estimated an amount of material needed to replace that removed concrete material. When the contractor did remove the concrete, it was found that it was thicker than anticipated. It was pretty old concrete. So it's possible that those drawings were just inaccurate. Thus, more material than expected was needed to rebuild the roadway back to that necessary grade. Staff did work with the contractor to try and find some surplus material elsewhere on that phase to offset the needed material, but was unable to get enough. There is also concrete under phase 2 portions, but we're pretty optimistic that we're going to have enough material elsewhere on that phase to use. So as of right now, we're requesting approval of the change order in the amount of $32,793.60.
All right. Remind me again, is it just phase 1 and 2, or is there phase 3?
There's a phase 3.
Okay.
It progresses from the west to the east. So they just completed most of phase 1 with the exception of the grass growing. They just started phase 2 now, the middle portion. So kind of Juniper, 6th, the area by the park.
Okay. And do we anticipate more concrete underneath in phase 2 and phase 3, or just?
I think just phase 2.
Okay. But we should be ahead of it with this amount of infill, or?
This amount should be just for phase 1. We're hoping that we have a pretty fair number for that number if for some reason we run into a problem in phase 2. But like I said, we're pretty optimistic that we have enough material to offset it.
Okay. You got anything?
How much thicker? Like inches or like
Yeah, a handful of inches.
a handful of inches over the like span of the?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it was quite a bit of material. Usually we try to crown our road up. The amount of material that was missing was probably about 6 inches throughout the entire area. So it looked like it was almost a bird bath in the entire section. So we had to do an awful lot of rebuilding to get it back up.
Okay.
I'd move to approve the change order.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, on to the next, we have a request to award improvement 23-03, 2023 large patch project. Again, Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So staff solicited for quotes from several contractors for the annual large patching project, and we received 2 responses, typical respondents. The 2 bids were from Anderson Brothers for $49,023 and Knife River for $51,733 and change. The budget for the project is $50,000. Staff is just recommending award of improvement 2303, the large patching contract to Anderson Brothers in the amount of $49,000 and $23.
Okay,
I have a question.
go ahead.
Jesse, when you look at projects like these, I realize some of the streets have far more than others, right? You would agree, yes? I know 6th Avenue, I think, is quite a stretch there. So when you do that, how far does that put us down, or if it does at all, on your improvement plan for the 5-year improvement? When you look at that, say that street in particular?
It's kind of indifferent. Depends on what the scope is in the area. Some areas have utility needs. Those utilities aren't really corrected through that. So from a rebuild standpoint and a reconstruction standpoint, these large patching projects really don't solve some of those issues. Some of the areas where we do have a large resurfacing project coming up, we try not to invest too many dollars with like the large patching project into them, knowing that we're going to do a much more comprehensive project down the road. So we're trying to be particular about where we're spending those dollars and trying to be at least responsible in that way.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Questions, comments, motions, anything?
I will move to award improvement 23-03 large patching contract to Anderson Brothers in the amount of $49,023.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. On to number 8, we have the award for the Trunk Highway 371, 371B and Willow Street Roundabout Engineering Services Contract. I believe this is engineering and design?
Correct.
Okay. And this is, again, Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So the project itself was awarded $750,000 in safety improvement grant funding to construct a roundabout at the intersection of South 6th and Willow Streets. Staff is planning to have the project constructed in 2025 to better accommodate the additional traffic that we're expecting during the Washington Street project in 2026 and 2027. So to meet the timeframes needed to construct the project in 2025, staff is recommending an award for engineering services for all 3, the preliminary, design, and construction engineering phases for the project. Keeping all of these under one contract really ensures that we're going to have the best opportunity for efficiency in the process to keep the tighter timeline. Generally, MnDOT shares in the cost of the engineering and construction of intersections based on the based in their network, based on legs. So in this instance, it's expected that MnDOT would share in 50% of the cost of the project, including the engineering. Right now, we're working with MnDOT to develop all the necessary agreements that would outline all the shared responsibilities of the project. With this, the staff received 4 proposals for engineering services from Bolton & Mink, SEH, Stonebrook, and WSB. We had a few staff review the proposals and score them based on weighted factors such as project understanding and qualifications and experience. After the scores were tabulated, SEH received the highest score with 7.62, followed by Bolton & Mink, WSB, and finally Stonebrook. Based on that scoring, staff is recommending the award of the Business 371 and Willow Street Roundabout Project Engineering Contract to SEH in the amount of $387,511.20.
Thank you. The obvious question would be, we have SEH at about 12,000 more than Bolton and Mink. Obviously, they must have scored higher on something specific.
That was their proposal. So we have 4 different factors. Cost is about 40% of that factor, and how we weight the scoring criteria. Project understanding, qualifications and experience, and the work plan of how they're planning to approach the project are all different factors, and they're assigned a different percentage of weight, and how we score that. So we had 3 different staff members provide review and scoring for the proposals. And based on that, even though the cost was a little bit more on the SEH one, their proposal was quite a bit better on the SEH one when you looked at the scoring. It offset the different costs. We did do some analysis with the cost side of that to assign points to the cost, and we did put an extra bump for having the low bid. So even with the extra point bump for having the low bid, SEH still came on top for overall points. So
Okay.
Could you read me the two, I'm sorry. Is it
Go ahead.
okay? The 2 totals, what SEH and the next lowest?
yes, sir. So SEH's total was $387,511.20. Bolton & Mink was $375,875.
You?
Could you specifically tell us which of those SEH did better on? Was it the understanding of the project or the work plan? Or
A little of everything,
little of
actually.
everything?
Yep. I can speak to myself. I can't really speak to the other reviewers. But from my perspective, they had a really experienced staff that they were proposing to put on the project, a good solid work plan, and a lot of experience with not only projects in this area, but projects of this type. So we felt that they were well qualified for this project.
SEH has been pretty integral with MnDOT in our 2026 project as well.
So, I'm sorry, so the 300, and whatever, their bed, that covers just the engineering scope at this point?
Correct. So that would be everything from the preliminary stuff, the investigation, into the design, getting it out to bid, any right-of-way acquisition that we would need, and construction. Now, it doesn't cover the cost of actually acquiring it, but the services to go through that negotiation process, they would provide the staff to go through that process for us. So they are going to provide all the engineering of this. So not to say that we would be hands off, obviously we'd be involved in the process from the beginning to the end, but SEH would administer the project on our behalf.
With that answer, that means then the next item that comes up, we're with SEH for they get the contractors to do the work. Is that how it works?
Correct. When we get to that process, now we'll have a long ways to go with council buy-off on as we scope the project, develop the project, and get the design ready. And then by the time that we're ready to go, probably late 2024, towards the end, or maybe even at the latest early 2025 to go for bid, then we would bring those bids back from contractors.
They're all handled by SEH.
That would all be handled by
from this
SEH
point on.
if we award the contract to them. Yep.
Okay.
One thing you mentioned was the cost sharing with MnDOT on some of this engineering service, but we don't have that nailed down yet.
We're working on it. I reached out to the district engineer. I know I got a response from him, but it was while I was gone, so I have not looked at that yet. But we're going to work through that process with them because obviously this is work on the state highway, so we'll have to have an agreement in place to be able to do that work.
Okay. So awarding this without that officially in writing, I would be more comfortable just awarding whoever we're going to award, but hold off on the signatures until we have those agreements in place. Would that
Make
put
it
this?
contingent upon the.
Right, would that put this behind schedule, or would that?
It could. That would be a little bit of a concern. The one issue that I would have is, well, not the issue, but what we could do is we could work through the agreement process, get that in place while SEH almost gets started. It's before we start paying SEH. If we don't have that agreement in place, that's where we run into the issue. MnDOT doesn't like to back pay. So we would want to have that before we start issuing payments. So we can start working on our end of negotiating the final contract, getting the final ratification of the contract with SEH nailed down so we don't lose traction there, but not necessarily getting any work done in billable time until we've nailed down everything with the MnDOT agreement.
Okay, and how long do you expect until that would be?
I would try and work that up pretty quickly because, like I said, we're on a somewhat tight timeline, and I think that MnDOT understands that too.
Okay. Are you guys comfortable with that?
I am, sorry, you can't see me nodding.
All right.
I haven't decided yet.
We'll see which way you vote.
Well, I guess I will move to award the Trunk Highway Business 371 Willow Street Roundabout Project Engineering Contract SEH in the amount of $387,511.20. Can't forget the 20 cents.
Mr. Chair, I will second that, but I do have a comment.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. I think it's important that we make sure we share with the rest of the council the specifics about this, so we don't have anybody wondering about it later. Okay, that's all I'm asking. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
I-
Okay, any more discussion? Comments? Nothing? All right. Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, on to the next one. We have item number 9 is a discussion on the gate at Evergreen. And go ahead again, Mr. Dean.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So staff received a request from Alderman Johnson to discuss the Evergreen Landing Gate at this council meeting. The gate was recommended by then engineer Sandy to install the gate to protect the road from damage by vehicles during the spring thaw. It was asked if the spring season, including fishing opener, and at that time, Sandy responded with no. During this last spring, the flooding of the Mississippi was considerable, and when fishing opener did approach, staff and police evaluated the conditions of the road and landing. It was discussed that there existed a public safety concern and potential damage to the roadway for vehicles to be allowed into the area, and thus the staff had decided at that time to keep the gate closed. Staff did present this decision and the rationale at the May 15th council meeting. At this time, staff would like some council direction on how to handle the gate moving forward. Options include removal of the gate, clarification that the gate will be opened by fishing opener regardless of conditions, or open the gate should conditions be supportive of vehicle traffic. Staff's recommendation would be the third option, but would like council to provide their direction on any of these 3 options or another alternative.
Okay. So going back to 2 years ago when we decided to put this gate in, it was because every single year we would have people mudding back there and we would have to spend more money fixing the road. And that is why the gate is there. So I think, to me, number 3 makes sense, keeping the gate there for the time that it is needed, just having some clear language on the fact that this doesn't mean the park, technically the park, I guess it's a park. I didn't know that until about 2 weeks ago. But it is still open to foot traffic, to canoes, to kayaks. You just can't drive or pull a trailer back in there at that time.
And to clarify, there is a sign on the gate that does say when it is closed, the gate or the area is closed to vehicle traffic, but foot traffic is welcome.
So we are covered.
Yeah, I guess makes sense to me. You're letting staff use their discretion then as to whether the gate opens in the spring or not, right? Or high water?
Yeah, when we did have the original discussion, it was mentioned that it would be open for fishing opener, no doubt every year. And I think usually almost every single year, it's better by then. This year it just wasn't. So it became a little bit of an issue, but
Trying to predict weather in Minnesota.
Just maybe you should put a little note in there, like, depending on the climate,
the climate or the weather?
Well, you tell me, what's the difference?
Climate's long-term.
Be the weather that weekend, I guess, yeah.
Well, how long has the water been up?
Well, and there's a chance that we could have a terrible storm where there could be trees down.
We don't get terrible storms in Brainerd.
Yeah, we don't get any rain here. But
Is there a
are we all
motion?
good for, are we all good for number 3?
Yes, would you,
You want to vote on this, or did we?
Yeah, let's have a motion.
well, okay, well, I move that number 3. Oh,
Hang on a second here.
No. Discussion once you've made your motion.
Not the motion, okay.
Let's make the motion before we have discussion.
That's what she's doing.
I will make the that is correct. I move that we keep the gate, clarify that the gate can continue to be closed should conditions not be supportive of vehicle traffic or if there's any kind of public safety concern by the police department.
Second?
Motion and a second. Discussion.
My only comment would be potentially language saying with special consideration for fishing opener, just so that we are aware that that is a date that we have been concerned of. I know right now we're aware of that, but in 25 years, when they're looking back at this and saying that the council made a decision, sometimes it's just good to have that in the language so people are aware that's why this came up in the first place.
Are you asking that we amend the motion or just in our minutes? We don't have minutes for this, so. I'm just asking.
I'm just simply saying that the whole concern of that coming up the first time was that they wanted to make sure that there was a specific understanding about the fishing opener and the importance of the fishing opener. And now we're coming back and saying, well, we may keep it closed. However, then we're completely removing the conversation about the fishing opener. Personally, I'd like to see it in the language so that people are aware that, yes, the fishing opener is important. However, potentially that may not be the case. That make sense?
Well, if it's worded specifically, how would you say that?
With special consideration for the fishing opener.
I will move to amend my motion
Second.
to include with specific consideration for fishing opener, just in case somebody from Minnesota forgets that that's a thing.
They will.
Well, we actually passed the motion. We want to get technical, we got to get rid of that. But are we going to?
No,
We just gotta vote on this twice.
We
It's
haven't
just-
voted on it yet?
no, we haven't voted on
We
it.
have a motion and a
Okay, I'll
second
second
to
your
amend
motion to amend, yep.
We have a motion and a
good.
second to amend a motion. So
Now we vote on
hearing
the
no
amendment.
more discussion on the amendment, we'll go to a vote on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye. Now we have to vote on
Amendment
the,
passes. Yep, now we'll go back to discussion on the original motion. Anything else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Clear enough? Clear as mud?
Mississippi, huh?
All right. Moving on to number 10. You have a discussion on a stop sign request for North 10th Street and Ivy Street. Again, Mr. Dean, go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So you have the memo in the attachment. Staff received a request to install stop signs on North 10th at the intersection of Ivy Street. Staff did perform a review of the intersection. After review, the intersection does not have enough traffic volume that would call for additional signage. In reviewing the crash history, there have been no documented crashes at the intersection in the last 10 years. Site distance is an issue for traffic approaching from the Ivy Street directions, but this is addressed with the existing stop signs placed on the Ivy Street legs of the intersection. After reviewing the speeds with the police department, there have been no speeding citations that have been issued at the intersection. Due to the citizen concerns, police have done enhanced speed enforcement at the intersection, and during those enhanced enforcements, police officers stated that vehicle speed was not an issue at the intersection. So based on the review, staff is recommending not installing stop signs on the North 10th Street at the intersection of Ivy.
Okay. Obviously, you got the data to support not to put a stop sign there. I agree. I don't think stop signs are always the answer to slowing people down for the reasons that are being considered. I did hear from the individual with this request, and he's right. I know for a fact that street, people do speed on it, just like they do all the other streets. But it's a long stretch without stop signs. And the bigger concern is probably when you're going north and you're coming down the hill if there were pedestrians crossing there and you're speeding, that's, just like you wouldn't see the stop sign until the end, you wouldn't see the person crossing until it could be possibly too late. Either way, you're going too fast. I'm just wondering if there's another way to use a different type of sign saying something about having a blind approach for pedestrian reasons. Because his main concern is one of the kids in the neighborhood being hit by a vehicle because they didn't see him until it was too late.
There is some additional signage that could potentially be placed there. I don't foresee that there's a lot of pedestrian traffic outside of, like you mentioned, the neighborhood kid that's out there. There's really not a lot of walkways out there that way, so it's really tough. There's not really even a signed crosswalk. So putting a supplementary signage, I mean, something we can definitely do, but it just, there's not a big warrant for it because there isn't those crosswalks and sidewalks there.
Right.
So to put something on the other side of the hill, we can do that and say like a blind intersection or
As you're getting
something.
to the end of Franklin, there could be a reminder like, hey, there's an intersection up here that you still can't see yet. You know, I don't know what that sign would be, but just a suggestion to add something.
Staff can take a look at the manual on those signs and see if there's something that would make sense.
Okay. And not knowing what that sign's gonna be, I don't really expect a motion on that, but as far as not installing the stop sign, last time we decided not to install a stop sign, we didn't use a motion that time either.
Well, I would make a motion that we have staff look at alternatives.
Okay.
To a stop sign, some sort of warning. So
Bring it
I'll make
back in a
that-
couple weeks.
Make that a motion.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion to have staff move forward looking at alternative options to a stop sign on the hill approach on North 10th Street. Any more discussion on it? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Item number 11 is a discussion on name a truck. This is probably our most important thing tonight.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Informational item only. So staff wanted to inform the council that we've put up a survey for citizens to name our new truck that just arrived. We'll be taking the appropriate responses and putting a ranking survey out. After that, we'll bring the top selections to council to formally select the winning name.
Are you going to reveal any of your top choices that you know of so far?
No.
Maybe he has none.
How many entries roughly do we have?
I haven't checked it since I've been back, but when I left last Friday, there was at least 15. Most of them were pretty appropriate. So
When does it end? Don't pull them up right now. It ended today. Oh,
I think about one, was it today or next? I believe one more week, but I'm going to change it out. So all those appropriate responses, we're going to reissue the survey out and just rank the ones that we have and see where the top choices come out from the ranking.
are any of them any good?
There are some really good ones.
Okay, that's all that matters.
All right.
Is there going to be a retirement party for Cousin Eddie or a ceremony?
I don't think we're going to have a retirement party for
Thank
Cousin Eddie.
him for his service.
We're not selling them just yet, are we?
Blowing it up during the fireworks?
I'll Photoshop a really good picture of him in Christmas Vacation.
There we go. Excellent. All right, that's just a discussion item. Moving on to number 12, we have a report of survey results on Washington Street Special Services District. And go ahead, Mr. Dean.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. So another discussion item. So just following up on a request from the committee back in February when we presented a potential alternative to the downtown snow removal services. The council requested that staff send out a survey to gauge interest in expanding the special services district to businesses along 210. So staff sent out a flyer with a link to a survey to all businesses between Baxter Drive and 5th Street Northeast, as well as a one block radius outside of the current special services district. The 4 questions asked are in the packet for you. However, we did not receive a large number of responses, but of the responses that we did receive, most were not in favor of establishing a new special services district.
Okay. Again, just a discussion item on this one. So we don't really need a motion, but you guys remember yeah, you guys remember sending this out? What was this?
Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, thank you for getting the information. It is interesting to see, just in general, what the responses are. But we can move on and move forward with whatever changes we want to make without
Could I just ask,
specific position.
I don't know if it was in there, but what was of the number of businesses or property owners you contacted, what was the total response percentage-wise? Like 30, 40?
I think we only got like 25 responses. I know we sent probably a couple hundred flyers.
Okay.
So we didn't see a ton of return on it, but did what we could anyway.
Yeah.
Could probably assume that if you're not going to return your opinion on that, you're probably not going to show up and give an opinion at a meeting, but who knows? Who knows? That's where we're at right now. Next item is direction on small engine repair and home businesses. This is item number 13. I believe, is this one Mr. Kramvik?
That's correct.
All right.
Thank you,
go ahead.
Mr. Chair. So staff would like Safety and Public Works Committee to review home businesses and determine if small engine repair for watercraft, power tools such as leaf blowers, lawnmowers, and chainsaws, and any other items not listed under the motor vehicle definition should be allowed in residential districts, subject to the regulations set forth in section 515-3-19, home businesses. Motor vehicles are not allowed to be repaired in residential districts per City Code Section 2013. Definition within the city code for motor vehicles is self-propelled and designated to travel along the ground and shall include but not limited to automobiles, trucks, buses, motorbikes, motorcycles, motor scooters, tractors, go-karts, campers, trailers, snowmobiles, and all-terrain vehicles. So with home businesses, the person conducting the business must live at the residence. An attached garage and/or an accessory building may be used with home businesses. Only articles made or services provided on the premise may be sold on the premise. Outdoor storage materials and equipment are subject to the zoning code requirements, which cannot be visible to neighboring properties or the right-of-way. No equipment, activity, or process shall be in a home business operation shall not create noise, vibration, glare, fumes, odors, or electrical interference. So with this, just kind of a reason for bringing this up, Planning Commission did direct staff as part of the last Planning Commission meeting to look at small engine repair and how it relates to home businesses. Staff did contact the city attorney. Our definitions within home businesses, is really more of a policy decision rather than a clear interpretation. So it is up to the city council to kind of review what we have in front of us. And staff would like Safety and Public Works to determine if small engine repair is considered minor repair services, which is permitted as a home business, and make a motion for that.
Okay. You guys look through the language? You have any questions?
Yeah, well,
I was at the planning commission meeting too, so.
Oh, yeah. And what was the general consensus for that?
On this, it wasn't about this. It's about what's happening later in our meeting.
Right.
This was more just direction to bring it to council for feedback,
Okay.
but.
Jeff, your turn.
okay, so you're asking us tonight to change the language.
So not change the language because the language is there, but essentially make a policy decision. There is language that minor repair services are permitted as a home business. Motor vehicle repair is not. That's specifically in the city code. So, if it's contained within the garage, meets all the other requirements of the home business, does small engine repair, is that considered minor repair services or not?
And I think another thing to point out is to what extent. If you're helping out neighbors or you're doing a few engines here and there and you're just doing things out of your own garage, I don't think it's really going to bother anybody. But obviously there's an ordinance for a reason. I think our job is to interpret whether or not jet skis or watercraft were left out purposely. I don't know what the difference would be. And I do know we have somebody here that if you wish to, you can speak on whatever your opinion might be on this. I'm totally fine with that. If you just want,
Good.
yeah, just come up to the microphone. If you want to come up,
Want me to come up there?
yeah, and just say your name and address.
Okay. Dale Holmquist Jr., but I go by DJ, 431 B Street, where the watercrafts are. I'm sure you've seen them. Yeah, I don't do any major repairs. I do things like, put in batteries, tune-ups, pump repairs from people eating rocks and, that kind of thing. I do not do engine rebuilds. I do not do anything like that or major. Just the watercraft stuff, and that's the only time I do it. I don't even fix small engines for lawnmowers or stuff like that for people. That's just strictly PWCs.
From when I talked to you in the past, it was mostly doing winterizing.
Yep, I do some winterizing, true, but that's the thing, pulling the batteries out and fogging the motors, simplest things like that. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And summarizing, putting batteries back in, fire them up.
Yep. So a lot of the things that you do would fall within the realm of what is allowable right now, unless we were to say jet skis are also included in that.
That's correct.
Have we had?
Or you could consider if there was major engine repair being done, there could be that could be considered different than minor repair services. So just looking for some policy and code interpretation from council.
I'd hate to change a policy based on just one person doing a business. 'Cause that's not what we're about, is, interrupting a business. But there is a certain point where your business grows and you get to a point where that's why this ordinance is here. Like, you gotta get a commercial spot,
Oh, definitely.
So I don't know if that's your
And just
plan in the
FYI,
future.
yes, I do plan to, if, I am looking, and I have a realtor, and we are presently looking and trying to find something else.
So I think a part of what staff is trying to allow for you too is do you a favor here and get ahead of it. If you really want to put all that money into your conditional use permit that's coming through later into the current property that you're at, or you could just put some of that money into whatever you're looking for a commercial spot.
That's correct, that's what I want to do, yeah. My garage wants to be a garage and storage, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I do not want to continue from there, no.
Okay. And would you still consider moving forward with the conditional use permit or the variance? Is
So,
it a variance?
the variance, which is kind of unrelated to this, and I'll kind of talk through that at council. And just to kind of enter one other thing, this wouldn't just affect this property, it'd be kind of a citywide policy as well. It just kind of brought to light
Right.
because of the planning commission meeting.
Yeah. So if we openly said that this is fine, we would be essentially saying anybody can run a jet ski repair business in any part of the city, but do we really have any other examples of that?
I would say there's more examples of motor vehicle repair. We just had to send a letter out today for that. There's less jet ski or small engine stuff that we hear within our department as being an issue, I guess, if it is happening.
Yeah, I guess it's just a hard one to define because it's not like he's running a chop shop or anything like that, making noise. It's
Right.
small repairs or maintenance type issues on wave runners.
How often do you run the machines that you work on?
For example, let's see, hard to say. Maybe 4 or 5 out of 10, maybe half, maybe a little less. Because most of them, most of them come in for putting in, batteries are dead, that kind of thing. Running codes, so I have a desk system that runs codes, replace sensors. Then a pump, impeller repair, so take out the old wear ring impeller, put a new one in. So that don't need to be started up after that. Again, a lot of these are 4-stroke, they do not smoke, they're just like a car and super quiet. So,
Okay.
yeah, they're not the old loud.
I guess completely objective, not knowing anything pretending not to know anything what's going on there. If I were to look at that and somebody were to ask, are wave runners included in this? I would say, well, yeah, that's kind of in general the type of thing we're talking about. But I don't want to just shut down what you're doing right now. In my opinion, I think we just don't want it to get a whole lot bigger. So I would say, I don't know if we need to change or interpret this in a way that we say, if it stays in the garage and you're not getting complaints,
I think,
it would be just like a lot of the other equipment that's in there if you're repairing your own, If people are starting to notice that you're not just working on your own stuff and it's out in the yard or for sale on the curb, stuff like that, that's different.
I think we can rely on number 4 there for really, if I can't hear it, smell it, it doesn't snarl up traffic I'm getting stuck in, I don't really care what people are doing in their garages.
And if Safety and Public Works would like to consider minor repair services, you know, maybe it's outside of major engine repair, maybe that just wouldn't be allowed. And then, you know, potentially on top of that, there would be a home business license still required to make sure everything's, you know, it does have to be in a garage. It does have to be not viewed from the right of way. And if things are not being considered with that, or there's things on the property that aren't abiding by the home business, it would be brought back before council again. So there is ways to control it and look at it.
Okay, so specifically, are you looking for a motion?
I'm looking for a motion for a policy decision if, you know, essentially, small engine repair outside of, I guess, major engine work would be considered minor repair services.
So option 1 and option 2 I'm looking at here.
Yep.
Kind of the two that you have laid out. From our discussion right now, maybe we're leaning towards option 1.
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll make the motion for option 1.
I'm going to second that. Thank you.
All right. Motion and a second for option 1. Do we have any more discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Make sense, Mr. Holmquist? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we will go to our final item, direction on active code enforcement. And Mr. Kronvik, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Staff is bringing 3 properties before the committee for review. Staff is looking for direction from council as how to proceed with the cases. The first property is 1113 Rosewood. There's 3 specific items with this one: garbage, junk and debris, and exterior structure. You can see that there's a garage door falling off of the garage, which is a property maintenance violation. There's tires and junk scattered throughout the yard of the property, and then there are garbage bags in the trailer and the truck with the property. So with that, staff recommends obtaining a search warrant to abate the garbage, junk and debris, and staff also recommends sending a $300 citation every month for the property maintenance violation until November 1st, which is what we had typically recommended last year for property maintenance violations.
Yep. Is everyone aware of the situation of 505 and 506? Are you aware of the uniqueness of it?
Well, just what I read, that it's the one.
So this
property
one's
owner.
different. Do we want to do one big motion, or do you want to take separate motions for
Well,
each one of these?
You were just talking about 1113.
Yep, and that's the other one.
Yeah, one big motion I think is fine,
Okay.
unless we have some disagreement on what to do. I'm okay with following staff recommendation on all these because I've looked into them pretty close.
So I can go through 505 and 506 as well, give a little bit of a background for that. This is a property that's located above the bold parking area from the high school. It can be seen from the roundabout on College Drive, specifically in the wintertime, with junk and debris on the site. There's tarp piles, there's tire piles, piles of other types of junk and debris, wood scattered throughout the property, as well as a number of abandoned vehicles. Most of the stuff is on 506 Rosewood Street. However, that property owner is the one that's not responsible for all of the items in that area. It's the owner of 505 Rosewood Street that stated essentially it is his stuff that he's been collecting on the property. At one time, there was a contract for deed. That's long since passed, and that was revoked. And the owner of 505 has continued to store stuff on the property and continue to accumulate stuff in that area. So with that, staff did consult the city attorney and is recommending issuing a 10-day notice for final corrective action and cleanup of both 505 and 506 Laurel Street. If both properties are not cleaned up, staff recommends seeking legal action against Mr. Kramer, owner of 505 Rosewood Street.
Understood.
So the property owner of the next door then would not be harmed by us doing this?
Well, he's already been fined because his property does have citations on it. The problem is he's not the one causing them. So he
Got it.
could potentially use that in a civil lawsuit to settle the matter. But our hands are kind of tied as far as making anybody do anything until it comes to an abatement and taking legal action. But it's pretty unique. I think the owner, Mr. Imgren, who owns what should be a vacant lot, would like to sell it, but you can't sell it as is right now. So there lies the issue.
I would move to follow staff's recommendation on this.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Oh,
Oh, we still do
one
have-
correction, Jesse did notice that I put Laurel Street on there, it's supposed to be Rosewood Street.
Oh, sure.
Yep. Yeah, and with that, I do want to clarify the legal action would be in the form of what we're doing at 1306 Oak Street, which would be an injunction against the property owner.
Excellent.
Enough for me.
Okay. Any more discussion? Hearing none, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We can adjourn.